All right. It is David Fisher here from the David Fisher podcast, coming to you from headquarters here at Fit Body Boot Camp in Amherst, New Hampshire. Certainly would like to take a moment here to appreciate and welcome you to the show. Today we are going to be talking a little bit about what I just did this past weekend, big accomplishment, and really kind of the mindset. Not only in the accomplishment itself, but really that kind of went into some of the other things that went along with that. So I'll get into that in a minute, but certainly hoping that the reason that you are here today is to help to get a little bit better today than yesterday, and really try to help create that better version of yourself, better community, better family, better self. All those things that are just trying to move that needle and realize that what we have is today. And through today, we can accomplish great things, but it just needs to be something that is done on purpose. So it's not going to happen by accident as much as I would like to think that it would. It's going to require some focus, some attention to detail, and at the end of the day, getting it done. So anyway, let me dive right into today's topic. The event that I did yesterday, 2 days ago, was an Ironman. The Ironman is a triathlon. There is a swim, a bike, and a run portion. I did a half Ironman, 70.3 miles. So it consists of a 1.1 or 1.2 mile swim, open water with 1,200 of my closest friends. That was a whole different experience. Quite honestly, didn't really do a lot of practice with the open water, especially not with that many people. Got a couple of open water swims in, especially with a tri-suit on. Very different experience. They're designed to actually help you be more buoyant and get through the water even easier, as far as less drag, less resistance. So part of the planning for this triathlon was to spend some time getting in the open water and swimming with it on. Pretty cold in New England. Got some swim time in at the local Y, which is great, but it is a very different experience swimming in a pool versus open water, and especially with that many people clunking into you. But anyway, so that's the first part of that. And really, I think probably one of my biggest takeaways from that was it was just so strange to me to see how many people quit within that first quarter mile. It was tough. I mean, there was bodies all over the place, arms, legs getting kicked. Not really, I had some trouble with my bearing, as far as, swimming in a straight line, tough to do. There's no, like in a pool, lines on the bottom there to kind of follow, make sure you're in that straight line. So that was a big challenge for me. But I realized that there were people that were swimming over to the kayaks. They call them lily pads. And, that's an opportunity. It's in the rules. You can actually adjust your goggles or fix your swim cap, or basically take a break there as long as you're not making forward progress. But people were there waving their arms as a signal that they were tapping out, and boats were coming by pulling people out of the water, and literally it wasn't even a quarter of a mile into the 1.2 mile swim. And I realized that they just probably weren't prepared mentally. So that is something that I took away from that, just saying, like, it was, again, even for myself, without really any experience in that environment, a bit daunting, but I knew that it was something that I was going to be able to push through and persevere. I didn't really have my best swim time. It was really more about getting the job done and getting it accomplished versus, trying to be on the podium. So my swim time was about 48 minutes. People were out of that water, the top athletes, in less than a half an hour. So 27 minutes, I think I saw for like the top place finisher. But again, I'm not really comparing myself to them. You know, spending the extra 20 minutes in the water, not a big deal to me. Again, there was plenty of learning opportunities. A couple times, guys in the kayaks, the volunteers coming over to me, hey swimmer, you're off course. Like literally was swimming out towards like the middle of the river. This was in the Connecticut River, not a very deep river, which surprisingly it was probably only about like 10 feet deep or so where we were swimming. But I was not on course. Like I had to stop, redirect, get my bearing. Okay, now I need to head over in that direction, and then start swimming. So I got a couple extra strokes in there, no big deal. But that was really the first part of it, and then the coming into that transition station where you take the wetsuit off and then hop onto that bike for a 56.6 mile ride. A little daunting coming in there and be like, oh my gosh, like where did these bikes go? Like there was literally over 1,200 bikes here when I started this thing. Now there is literally a couple hundred bikes there. Taking the wetsuit off to come up on the announcements. Hey racers, just want to let you guys know that our first biker has crossed the 20-mile mark. I'm like, wow, 20 miles already into this 56.6 mile bike ride. I don't even have my wetsuit off yet. I've got some time to make up. I felt like I did really good on the bike ride. I averaged about 16.1 miles an hour, which for me, I was really trying to shoot for about 18, 19 miles an hour. But again, having a lot of respect for these guys that are out there averaging 35 miles an hour. There were some pretty steep hills that we went through. This was out in Western Mass, so the Berkshires are out that way. There's definitely some elevation changes. It was not flat at all. There were some flat parts, but one of the biggest things that was so cool were so many people were coming out from their houses, on their yards, in their driveways, gathering, cheering us on. So cool, ringing the cowbells. Amazing community support, which really felt good to be experiencing that as a participant. Got the bike ride done. Oh, so here's a funny story. So there was a couple of people that had flat tires and whatnot. I threw my chain a couple of times. That was really my fault for improper bike usage, not shifting correctly. But again, a lot of learning experiences. But there was this guy that was over on the right-hand side that literally had his back tire off, and I was like, oh, this guy must have a flat. And there were people that were driving around with like repair vehicles and helping out bikers. But he had gone across the road, was trying to get back, waiting for a break in the traffic. I'm like, wow, this guy obviously is fixing his bike, and like 15 minutes later the same guy is passing me. I'm like, wow, these guys are just so fast, these these elite riders. And it was pretty humbling to be like, wow, I've been pedaling as hard as I can here for the past 15 minutes, and this guy's got his bike back together and is now just blowing right by me. So pretty humbling experience with that, but just a lot of training, a lot of practice. And that was, again, one of my takeaways, that, could certainly be spending more time doing that. But this was really more about getting it done. Actually, somebody had challenged me to do this event, which, glad they didn't challenge me to, jump off a building. But, this was something that I had been thinking about doing for some time. Actually, last year was an event up in Laconia, New Hampshire. It was called the Timberman. It was another Ironman 70.3. It was literally like right on the same lake where my in-laws have a place. I could have walked to the start line, but I just didn't feel like that I was there mentally to do it. I hadn't put in like the time training. I just finished my first marathon, so I felt like, oh, this is something that at least was probably within my reach, but had not really put in the time with the swimming and the biking. So didn't do it last year, and somebody called me out back in February, I think it was, to say, hey, you got to get yourself into a half Ironman this year. So got it done. The run part was really what I thought was going to be the strongest. Like I just said, I ran a marathon last year, did my first half marathon last year as well. So I thought that was going to be the strength. Mile 4 ended up getting severe cramps, both my hamstrings. Honestly thought that I was not going to be able to continue. Still had nine miles to go. and just absolutely suffered through those 9 miles with severe leg cramps. Had to do a lot of walking, running when I could, and I just realized that it was not going to really be an option to quit. Like, if I could just keep my legs from going into spasms, trying to grab some bananas, oranges. I probably had about like 10 things of goo, different LMNTs, just to try to hold off or, maintain that cramping. One of the things that was so amazing to me was that I got to spend the weekend with my oldest son. He came down. He was my Sherpa, my buddy, my guide, helping me out during the run portion. It was basically like a figure 8, and I'd come back through the center there and said, hey, I need to try to get some mustard in me. I'd heard that, I'm not sure if it's the vinegar that's in mustard, helps with, endurance athletes, and I thought that might help with my cramps. He literally ran over to like the nearest Burger King in downtown Springfield, Massachusetts, got me a cup full of mustard. They didn't have the packages. I'm trying to, drink mustard out of a plastic cup. But it was just incredible to have him there, to see his dad trying to get after it and accomplish, things that maybe are just a little bit outside of his reach and a little bit outside his comfort zone, and spend that time with him, just really honestly bonding as a father and son was really special. And then the run, I actually did finish the run. Took me probably like almost 45 minutes longer than I had anticipated that it was going to take me, but I got it done, made it across the finish line, felt really good about it. And the other part from the weekend that was, or the event that was really special, was being able to share that moment with some very dear friends. And that's something that's been a bit of a challenge for me, having to allow people into my life. So I've been very much somebody for many years that I've just tried to do things on my own, or, suffer in silence, or just, try to figure things out. If something's not working, well, maybe just get a bigger hammer or something along that line. And having these friends there, to celebrate and to, share that achievement with, was something that just really filled my heart. And it was a reminder for me that it is so important to allow people into my life, to share not only the good times, but also the difficult times as well, that I don't have to suffer in silence, or I don't have to do things by myself. Made some great connections down there with people, and my friend actually, he literally drove my car home 2 hours. I probably could have done it. I was gonna, try to figure that out, and one of those things that, sometimes having to put the ego aside and allow people that are willing to help. But my legs were just in so much pain that I probably would have just been absolutely excruciating pain trying to drive home for 2 hours, cramped up, in a seat, in the driver's seat. So at least I was able to stretch my legs out a little bit, move around during that drive, and have an amazing conversation, and spend some quality time with a dear friend. So things like that are just really what I'm taking away from this. As much as I'd like to, think of, where could I shave off some time? How could I train better and prepare better? I don't know that I'll ever be, a competitive triathlete. I just am happy with the fact that I am an athlete, and I can do things that are very challenging and very difficult, and that it's just going to be on to the next challenge. We got some Spartan races coming up here, Spartan Beast in Killington, which absolutely is going to be a whole nother set of challenges. But I'm just going to keep stacking these wins. As Mr. David Goggins likes to say, putting those cookies inside that cookie jar. If you don't know who David Goggins is, check him out. Somebody that is probably about 100 levels as far as next level endurance, mindset, and just absolutely not quitting. So that's really kind of one of the things that, you know, I kind of took out of this is just never quit. It's not something that, you know, I felt like even with the leg cramps that it was going to be something that was going to permanently hurt me. It just needed to be something that I was going to have to mentally get through, even if it meant having to walk for part of it, just to walk through some of those cramps and manage the best as I could with, you know, trying to stay hydrated and get across that finish line. So thank you guys for tuning in today and listening to the David Fisher podcast show, and appreciate you guys sharing this Ironman challenge experience with me as well. So guys, have a great rest of your day. In case nobody told you, you are 100% worth it.